Here are some things that you can do that will improve your achievement in science. How many are you already doing? What habits will you develop this year? Which one will you work on this week? Preview lesson material. We frequently need to hear or read something several times before we take it in. Actually, it's often only when we hear the second or third explanation that we suddenly understand it. Aha! One of the simplest things you can do to get more out of your teacher's explanations in class, and to know what questions to ask so you can understand it deeper, is to preview what they're going to say before you get to the lesson. And if you make your notes from the PowerPoint file or video before you get to class, you can spend your lesson time listening carefully and asking good questions, instead of just writing furiously. But how do you know what your teacher is going to say? Easy. Ask them. Look at the term or unit outline that you've been given. Read the relevant textbook sections. Watch the videos and check out any other links provided by your teacher. Search for videos by other people related to the topic. This last one is especially helpful. Everyone explains ideas differently. If you've already heard one or two explanations before you get to class, your teacher's explanation in class will be the second or third time you hear it, and you'll get a lot more out of it than you would if it was the first time. Taking good notes. Just copying your teacher's PowerPoint slides exactly is not the best way to take notes. Don't believe me? How well is it helping you to get top marks right now? There are much better ways. To really learn something, you have to force your brain to reformulate the ideas in your own way. Don't just write out exact linear copies of information. Try to write dot-point summaries instead of full definitions. Reorganize and reclassify in different ways. Draw diagrams and mind maps of ideas. The more links, the better. Remember, you can always go back to check the PowerPoint or textbook later if you can't quite remember something properly. You really want to be spending your class time listening carefully and asking questions, not writing furiously. Imagine what your lessons could be like if you already wrote your notes from the PowerPoint file before you got to class. There are some excellent note-taking systems. Many, like the Cornell system, also include summarizing and revising, which we'll talk about next. Mind maps, outlines, charts, and tables all work well. Pick a system and try it. It almost doesn't matter which one, they all work better than making exact copies of PowerPoint slides. Learn to use one system well. Practice using it every lesson, for every subject, every time. It will change your life. I mean it. Summarise. If you hear, read or write something once in class and then never look at it again, you will forget it. Don't believe me? What's a preposition? What's the formula for the surface area of a cone? To really learn something, you have to force your brain to reformulate the ideas in your own way. Summarise, draw mind maps, explain complex ideas in your own words. Draw diagrams, create a poster, make a comic or video. Create something. But you can't do all that in class. And honestly, you don't have time to write detailed notes and summaries in class. You should be spending class time listening and asking questions. But as soon as you can after class, yes, at lunchtime if you can, or as soon as you get home, go back over today's content and summarise. Rewrite definitions in your own words. Classify and organise the ideas. Draw a mind map linking the new ideas to what you learnt yesterday, last week, last term, 2 years ago. The more you can link together, the better. Try keeping a giant mind map for the whole subject on a large piece of paper on your wall, and add to it every day. The more often you look at it, the better you'll remember it all. Revise. If you hear, read or write something once in a class and then never look at it again, you will forget it. Don't believe me? What year was Columbus's famous voyage? What's the difference between the subject and the object of a sentence? To remember a large number of complex ideas properly at the end of the year, or to be able to still do a skill you learnt several months ago, you have to go back and revisit the ideas again, and practice the skills again and again. This reinforces the neural pathways in your brain that help you to remember, and eventually you'll be able to do those skills automatically. The ideal revision schedule begins as soon as possible after you first learn something, and then in increasing intervals, the next day, next week, next month, next term. The more often you revisit, and the more recently you last did something, the better you will remember it. The more systematic and self-disciplined you are about keeping to a revision schedule like this, the better you will recall information during your exam. Try keeping a giant mind map for the whole subject on a large piece of paper on your wall, and add to it every day. Each time you look at it, pick a concept you haven't thought about for a while, and think back over that idea and all its connections to the rest of what you know. Even better, make some new connections. Draw them on right away. The more often you do this, the better you'll remember it all in the exam.